All right, let's jump right in. We all know what work feels like these days, right? But what happens when a company really changes the way it operates? Well, it's not just that they communicate better, they actually start moving faster. And that's what we're going to dig into today, how to turn all that talk into real, genuine forward motion. So in most places, communication just feels like, well, friction, right? Every email, every meeting, every single Slack thread, it all adds up to this huge mental load. We spend so much of our day just aligning, clarifying, catching people up, or fixing misunderstandings. But here's a thought. What if all that friction isn't a given? What if it's just a symptom of a weak foundation for context? See, when you get that foundation right, communication stops being a drag and starts being a booster rocket. It becomes propulsion. Every single interaction actually moves the work forward because everyone has what they need to just go, to act with confidence. Okay, to make this really hit home, let's take a process we've all been through. Getting something approved. A new project, a new idea, whatever. We're going to look at the two totally different ways this can play out. So, this is the before picture. Without the right context, getting an approval is, well, it's a slog. It's these painful, multiple rounds of communication. You send out your proposal, then of course, someone has questions, so you have to clarify, and then someone else pops up with a concern you never even saw coming. So you go back, you revise, you resubmit, and you wait. And after maybe 3 or 4 rounds in a meeting you probably didn't need, you might finally get the green light. The cost here isn't just effort, it's weeks of calendar time gone. Now let's look at the after picture. What if you could draft that same proposal, but this time with complete context right from the get-go? You'd actually know what questions people are going to ask because you can see the patterns. You'd be addressing their concerns before they even think to raise them. Your first version, it's not just complete, it's persuasive. You're showing everyone you've done your homework and you get the entire landscape. And the result? You get that approval in 1 round. Maybe 2 tops. And this illustrates the point perfectly. We're not just talking about saving a few days here and there. This is what we mean by time compression. This is forward motion in action. And the best part? It compounds. It's like a snowball effect. When approvals come faster, projects kick off earlier. When decisions are made with real confidence, you get way less rework. The whole organization just picks up speed. It accelerates. Okay, so that's the concept, right? It feels good, it sounds good, but what about the actual tangible ROI? Let's get into the hard numbers and see what all this acceleration is really worth. For your individual contributors, the people on the ground doing the work, the impact is immediate. We're talking about 12 to 15 hours per week just reclaimed from hunting down context. I mean, stop and think about that for a second. That's over 600 hours a year for every single person that they get back to focus on the work that actually matters. Now managers, they see even bigger gains. A typical manager spends something like 40% of their time just answering those constant context questions from their team. You know the ones, hey, why did we decide this? Or what's the history on that project? With a system that's context-aware, that number plummets, down to around 10%. That is a massive, game-changing shift in how a manager can actually spend their day. And this part is really interesting. The effect this has on getting new people up to speed. It's honestly dramatic. The traditional path, to get a new hire fully productive, it takes about 6 months. But when you give them instant access to the company's entire institutional memory, we're seeing that time get compressed down to just 6 to 8 weeks. So, okay, the crucial question is, what's all this time actually worth in dollars and cents? Well, annually, we're talking up to $37,000 in recaptured productivity for each employee. For a manager, that number jumps to about $45,000. And for every new person you hire, you're saving roughly $60,000 in lost productivity just by getting them up to speed faster. I mean, these numbers, they're not just significant, they're staggering. And this benefit, this idea of having complete context, it looks a little different depending on the industry. In healthcare, it means a 65% drop in documentation errors. For financial services, we're talking 70% faster audit prep. In tech companies, it's just pure, unadulterated engineering velocity. And in manufacturing, it's a much smoother, better coordinated supply chain. The core idea is the same, but the impact is tailored. And what about the folks at the very top? For executives, the ROI is all about the quality of their decisions. I mean, check this out. One CEO told us they cut their monthly leadership meetings from 4 hours all the way down to 90 minutes. Why?
Simple. Everyone came to the meeting already having the complete context, and that little change, it translates to up to $75,000 in executive time recaptured every single month.
But look, the impact here, it goes way beyond just the numbers on a spreadsheet. It actually changes the entire culture of a company. So what happens when an organization really truly embraces this new way of working?
It creates what we call a context culture. And what that means is people just start expecting complete context in every interaction. It becomes the new standard. So when someone communicates without it, it really stands out, and not in a good way. The bar for clarity and for excellence just naturally gets higher, and people start holding themselves and each other to that new standard.
There's also this hidden cost to the old way of working that we need to talk about. And it's one that especially hits your best people, your top performers. For them, their own success can actually become a kind of trap. So here's what happens, right? The more context you have, the more knowledgeable you are, the more people come to depend on you. And yeah, that feels great at first, but pretty soon it becomes a cage. You can't scale your own impact because you're spending all your time being a walking, talking memory bank for everyone else. The only way out is to turn that personal knowledge into organizational infrastructure. And when you do that, you liberate your high performers. You free them up to focus on creating new value, not just rehashing old decisions. All right, so let's look forward a bit. What does this vision actually look like in practice? If you really commit to this, what could your organization become in, say, 5 years? Well, imagine this. New employees are fully up and running in days, not months. Big strategic decisions, they happen in weeks instead of entire quarters, because all the context you need is right there at your fingertips. Innovation just naturally accelerates because people can actually build on what's already been learned instead of reinventing the wheel. And communication itself, it becomes almost invisible. Not because it's gone, but because it's so incredibly efficient and effective that it just fades into the background, and all you feel is pure momentum. So, I'll leave you with this one question to really think about. What would change in your organization if every single person had perfect context? What could you and your team actually achieve if all that communication friction turned into pure forward motion? Because that is the transformation we're talking about.